So this video is about the double kettlebell swing. And before we get into any type of double kettlebell work, we have to talk about the grips. Now, the grip is very important, especially when you're using two kettlebells, because when you're holding two kettlebells, you've got to create a wider stance. And if you use what's called a barbell grip, or a pair, which is where the kettlebells are aligned completely straight, then we have to accommodate for the space in between your knees by getting that wider stance. Now, when you have a wider stance, that means that you're working a little bit more of your anterior chain, the front part of your body, and not as much of your posterior chain, which is the rear of the body. Now, the difference isn't really that much, but the focus is more towards the center and balancing, as opposed to the posterior chain if you're just using one kettlebell and you have a narrower stance. So that's one thing that you have to consider. Now, when we talk about grips, the reason why the barbell grip isn't always optimal is because we do have to take a wider stance, right? And so if we take a wider stance, then we can't get as forceful of a hip snap. So what we can do is we can accommodate our grips accordingly. So one of the grips that I like to use is a more traditional grip, which is what's called the inverted V, or the V grip, which is basically where your kettlebell handles align like a V, as you'll see down here. So the reason why I like the V grip is because you internally rotate both of your arms down, and what that does is that pre-stretches the muscles in the back of your shoulder, your external rotators. Now, the external rotators are important because they're responsible for posture. So if you're using the V grip, when you go into the hinge, as you explode throughout the hinge, those external rotators are able to snap back and snap you back and contract because they're being pre-stretched as you go down into your hinge, and they'll pull you into proper posture. So that's the V grip. The other grip that you can use is what I call the alpha grip, or it's also known as the inverted V grip, and that is where your kettlebell handles now are pointing at 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock on either side. Now, the reason why I like this grip as well is because if you look at the natural groove of your arms, or the natural positioning of your arms when you finish a kettlebell swing, you'll notice that your hands automatically go into that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock position. So you automatically finish through here. So by doing that, you're narrowing the grip of your, or the width of the kettlebell handle so that they're not going, so you don't have to stand too wide, and you're going into more of the natural positioning of your hands and your arms, which means that you're able to really engage your lats a lot better on the downswing. Okay, so you're keeping it at that inverted V, or the alpha grip, as I like to call it. Now, the one grip that you absolutely have to avoid is what I call the 11 grip, or the parallel grip. And the parallel grip looks like this. So that's where the two kettlebells are in line. You're basically getting the handles to point to 12 and 6 o'clock. They're one up and down. Now, the reason why I don't like this grip, sure, it gets your handles a little bit more narrow so you don't have to go too wide, but the problem is now that you're in this position here. So when you go into the backswing, that essentially is an arm bar. And if you practice BJJ or you know any grappling, then you know how dangerous an arm bar is. You could basically tear your bicep tendon in one of two places. And it's happened, I've seen it happen to other people before, where it snaps and then you get a big bulge because your bicep basically curls up into your shoulder. So the one grip that you want to avoid is the parallel grip, or the 11 grip as I like to call it, because you're holding the kettlebells basically straight up and down with your thumbs up, or your thumbs would be in the up position. So we never, ever, ever want our thumbs or the kettlebell handles to be at 12 and 6 o'clock. So that's grip, and in the next segment I'm going to go through the double kettlebell swing.